Welcome back to the Gametime in Arlington podcast, where we talk all about the Texas Rangers and Dallas Mavericks from a fan's perspective. My name's Eric Sorrentino. I'm the baseball blogger at GameTimeInArlington.blogspot.com. And from here in Overland Park, Kansas, I'm going to toss it over to my co-host in Dallas, Texas, Sam Mood. He's one of my classmates from Plano West Senior High. Sam, what's going on tonight, sir?
What's up, Eric? What happened to our team, man?
I have no idea, but I should probably change my name from baseball blogger to like basketball blogger, anything but baseball right now. It's just been a nightmarish season. What is going on, man?
It's been so tough to watch. Like, in years past, even when the team was bad back in the day, I would never miss a game. I would make sure to see everything, to see what's going on. Right now, I'm like, oh, the recording didn't hit. It was on Fox Sports 1. Oh, that's okay. Let me just check the box score. I mean, it's so tough to watch.
It's gotten that bad, and I will admit, back in the early 2000s when it was, not going well, I would watch most of the games, and myself right now, it's gotten to the point where I don't even watch that much anymore. It's almost like, if a young guy is in, maybe we'll see how it's going, but injuries have just derailed this team to no point, and we'll get into that here in a few minutes, but I honestly, Sam, we've been, I don't know if I want to say we've been spoiled over the past couple of years, but it's really put into perspective when your team is in the pennant race and then you fall to right now the Rangers are the only team in MLB without 40 wins at the All-Star break, and it's almost like, how did we get to this point?
Yeah, and you said it earlier. You're just watching to see how the young players are doing. That's what I'm doing right now. I mean, I'm just watching to see, hey, let's see some flashes, some good signs from our young players. Let me see who's available. Let me see how these guys just called up are doing. Let me see who's going to help next year. It's gotten to that point. I mean, I don't even care if they win or lose right now. We're not going to make the playoffs. Honestly, as a diehard fan, I think it's in our best interest right now to lose and try to get that number one pick next year. Let's just see some improvement from our young players, and let's play for 2015. You know what? It kills me that some people are also already giving up on 2015. That is BS. I mean, with health, this team can rebound and do well next year.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, with the amount of injuries that we've had, you take a look, catcher, first base, second base, at least 3 of the 5 in the starting rotation. I mean, this is a team that's built around guys that are not on the field. So I would say giving up in 2015 is very short-sighted. But for the rest of this year, Sam, I kind of want to toss it over to you. The trade deadline's coming up. We've got a couple of players who we might see shipped out to teams who are looking to contend this year. What trade prospects, if any, do you see on the Rangers, and who might we be giving up here?
There's a couple easy ones, and just from reading, that makes sense. It makes sense that you're gonna possibly deal Neil Kotz and Jason Fraser and see what you can get for them. You're not going to get an elite guy for those guys, but who knows, that maybe you get a piece that will become a good bullpen arm for you in the future, or a guy that pans out. But you're looking to deal maybe those guys. Soria has a club option for next year that will surely get picked up by whatever team he's on. I think you should expect a top 100 type prospect plus for Soria, and you don't trade him unless you get that, because it's not like he's going to be gone at the end of this year. So I expect us to get something good for Soria if we trade him. The tricky one is Alex Rios.
Yes.
I'd like to see him traded. He's also got an option for next year. He started out this year really, really hot, but he's tailed off a bit. His batting average is high but kind of empty. He does have a lot of triples, but he doesn't hit for power as a whole. Some people have said, oh, you might get something decent for him. Some people say, oh, maybe you pay a little bit of a salary and you can get rid of him just like he's a salary dump. I don't know. Maybe his value is somewhere in the middle, but we didn't give up much to get him last year. Hopefully we can trade him and get something decent back. And another big part about dealing these guys is their replacements. You can see if they're options for the future. If you trade all those bullpen arms I was talking about, maybe you see, hey, does Matt West have anything? Does Ramon Mendez have anything? Maybe Ben Rowan. See if these guys can help in the future. And the same would be with Rios. I think if you deal him, if you don't get back an immediate starting outfielder, maybe you finally see, hey, can Michael Choice help us next year?
Yeah, and it's interesting. You go back to Rios. We gave up. Who'd we give up? Lurie Garcia to get
No,
Alex Rios last year.
I mean, just he'd be nothing but a utility guy here, and we're so stacked in the infield as well. It was not.
Yeah. So exactly. So I'm open to it. Again, it all depends on the return. It's one of those things to where the Rangers haven't been in this position in a few years. The last couple of years, 2010 on, we have been buyers without a question. So I started reading what on the boards. One guy kind of made the comment, and I didn't really think of it this way, but one guy made a comment where, yeah, it's not the end of the world if we have a year where we're sellers. We kind of stock the system back up a little bit. I mean, think about these last couple of trade deadlines, the prospects that we've given up. So I'm interested to see, but I think you're right. I think that Kotz, Soria, Rios, those are the main guys. Fox Sports did something on Elvis and Adrian, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I can see like Giovanni Soto being traded if he's got anything in the tank. I mean, I'm sure that we would consider dealing some other guys, but I don't think Elvis. I'm sure we'll get to this later, but if Elvis is dealt, I don't see it happening during the deadline. I believe what Ron Washington when he says that. I'm sorry, Adrian Beltre isn't going anywhere. I totally believe that. So no, I don't think we're going to be selling up our core. We're going to try to compete next year.
Yeah, I agree, and that brings us to next year. I mean, it's sad to say that we're talking about next year at the midpoint of 2014, but that's kind of the reality for this club. What do you expect next year from some of these guys who are coming back? Prince Fielder, Jurickson Profar, Martin Perez. I mean, we could start with the hitters and start with Prince and Jurickson, but if Profar comes back next year, Rugi Odor has kind of played his way into the rotation, so you've got kind of that middle infield logjam again. What are you seeing? What are you predicting here for 2015? What's it going to look like?
If it's me, and a lot of people are big Odor fans, it's not that I'm not a fan of his. It's just hitters with his approach to the plate drive me crazy. He swings at everything. They don't take walks.
Yeah, not a lot of patience.
Those guys get themselves out. Pitchers aren't going to give them anything. Unless you're Vladimir Guerrero, you're going to get yourself out. My preference is to give Profar the job at second. Granted, who knows? Elvis could get traded, and this probably could go away. But if I have my choice, I would have Elvis at short. I would give Profar a look at second. People are forgetting he was the #1 prospect in baseball just a couple years ago.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Well, but I mean, Profar hits. He hits for power. He takes walks. He's a really good player, a really good prospect. Let's not forget about him quickly. But let's go around the horn. Let's see. At catcher, Chirinos is coming back for sure. Is he going to be your backup or is he going to be your starter again? We will see. We have Jorge Alfaro coming up the system, so they might want to do another stopgap at catcher since they didn't get McCann last year as well. First base is going to be Prince, obviously. I'm a little bit worried about Prince. I'm not as worried as about Shin-Soo Choo. I think he'll be fine going forward. He did fine till his ankle got hurt and he kind of stuttered a bit. But, man, I don't know. Prince, if you look at his stats in Detroit, they were going down fast every year. I'm afraid he's a player in decline with that injury. Man, we could have gotten damaged goods. That might be a bad deal. But he is your first baseman next year. Adrian's coming back at third. In the outfield, you're going to have Chu in left. You're going to most likely have Leonis Martin in center, though I could see the team trying to upgrade that position. And for right now, you've got, we just talked about Rios. He may or may not be back. If he is, he's in right. But again, I see the outfield as it has room for improvement, that's for sure.
It does, and I take a look at. I think you're right on all the way around. I'm with you completely on Profar. I think that he kind of got a raw deal this year. I would have loved to see what he had because it's like Kinsler's gone, and we finally get the chance to see what Profar has, and then he gets hurt and is out for the year. So it's just it plays into the overriding theme, I think, of 2014. But I'm with you. You can send Rugi down to the minors again. Get him his work there and get him his full-time work there and see what Profar has at the big league level for an extended amount of time, which we still have not seen Jurickson for an extended amount of time, and that's something that I really want to see.
Let's not forget that there's a chance that we can always do a young player for young player trade. You could see Rugned being traded for a young pitcher. You see Luis Sardinas being traded for a young pitcher. And
Definitely.
there's a lot more holes in the starting rotation next year. I mean,
And in
outside
the
of
outfield, potentially, Sam.
yeah. I mean, as far as pitching goes, outside of you and Derek Holland, who is penciled in next year? Nick Tepin
Well,
pitching okay. I
yeah.
could see him being a number 4 or 5 starter, but that still leaves room for a couple guys. Martin Perez won't be available to at least the All-Star break, kind of like Holland this year. He's still a ways away. I'd like to see Nick Martinez in the minors. I think Colby Lewis is done, unfortunately.
I
We're
agree.
going to have to get pitchers next year. We're going to have to sign some free agents for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that was kind of my next topic. I think that you're absolutely right. I think more so than what I'm curious about next year, with Prince and Profar coming back, is this rotation. It's unfortunate. We didn't even mention Matt Harrison, who, of course, with all of those surgeries, you would have to think he's done as well. I mean, it's so unfortunate because you take a look at the demise of this team this year, and I think more so than anything, you could take all the hitters out of there. I really don't care. I think the demise of this team this year started, when Harrison is down, and Perez goes down. Perez was so solid for the first month or two of the season, and then you get that news, and so it's you get 3 of the 5 guys in your rotation, of course, with Holland, who are just done, and it's just you can't compete that way, man. It's like. I'm reminded of Jim Mora. We didn't do diddly poo. We can't hit the ball. We can't pitch the ball. We can't field the ball. We can't do anything right now. It's horrible right now.
Looking at Wash during games is amazing. All he can do is shake his head every time someone makes a mistake.
Well, and that's the thing, Sam. So next year will be real fascinating to see what we do starting pitching-wise, but I'm with you. I mean, obviously, you're probably a little bit more familiar with a guy like Luke Jackson in the minors, or Chichi Rodriguez, or somebody like that, who I've read a lot about, but it's like their time isn't here yet.
Yeah,
so,
Chichi Gonzalez. You're confusing him with the golfer again.
The golfer, I'm sorry. Hey, that guy was pretty good back in the day, man, wasn't he? He was a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, it's like, clearly, I don't know. I don't know if their time is now. From what I've been reading, and apparently I need to do more reading because I don't know his name. But yeah, it's I don't know. It seems like it's a little too soon. So you might turn to free agency, like you were talking about. But what you were mentioning with Wash in the dugout is really interesting because it's like Wash and JD right now. It's just they kind of have the what can I do sort of facial expression. It's like even in quotes from JD that I've heard, it's like, he's not going to admit to, giving up, of course, or anything like that. But how much of this, and this is a popular topic that I've been keeping up on, people are blaming management, people are blaming the GM, people are blaming this, that, and the other thing. Is there a fault here, Sam, to you, or is this just a matter of injuries? This team is a professional infirmary at this point.
I don't think you can blame Wash or JD. You definitely can't blame Wash at all. I mean, Wash is coming back next year. I don't see him getting canned. Now, next year, if you do poorly, regardless of injury, then he'll be on the hot seat. But no, man, this year's just been a disaster. I mean, it's unprecedented the number of players we've had to use. We've already used 30 pitchers, 50 players total. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost like this team is like a double or triple A outfit. I mean,
yeah. Hey, I mean, Jake Smolinski's out in the outfield right now. We're bringing up pitchers that even I don't know a lot about, like Phil Irwin and Miles Michaelis. I mean, it's rough, man. You can't win, with all these holes trying to patch with minor leaguers. It's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One thing that has been happening this year is the man, the myth, the legend, Joey Gallo. He has really, it's almost like it's more interesting following what he does on a nightly basis than the major league outfit. It's great, and especially what he did in the Futures game last night with that home run. leading
Well,
his.
that's exactly the case for me. It's a lot more fun for me to go to Frisco right now and watch
It
him,
is.
and I that's what I'm doing. You know, I live in Plano. It's like right down the tollway for me, 5 minutes away. I've seen Joey play in 4 or 5 games, and the first three I went to, he homered in. He's just a
Wow.
lot of fun to watch. And I remember some of them. You know, I remember one I saw. It's like, oh, there's a pop up, and then the ball just kept going and going. I mean, it was a pop up that he hit for a home run. This guy's got power that maybe only Giancarlo Stanton has. He's got ridiculous power, and he's doing such a good job this year, especially in high A. Not as much in Frisco. He's still adjusting, but he's doing a good job of striking out less, taking more balls, kind of giving what the pitch, taking what the defense gives you, so to say, as far as batting. And he's just a blast to watch. Like you said yesterday, he damaged a car out there. The
Right.
the things I was seeing on Twitter, people were saying about him were ridiculous. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. It's at least for developing prospects in the minors. We're having a good year down there, and for sure you can pencil in Gallo as an everyday player, maybe as soon as next year, but hopefully within a couple of years.
Well, and that was my next question, Sam. You got Adrian Beltre, who clearly is in the twilight of his career, but let's be honest, the guy's hitting 330 something this year and still playing at an all-star level. So what's the how does the situation play out, and how soon could we see Gallo up with the big club?
Well, his bat is what's going to carry him. He's got a good arm. He's not necessarily a plus defender at third. He's improved his defense. He's definitely not a liability there. But like back in the day with Mark Teixeira and Hank Blaylock, it worked itself out. You find places for these guys. Gallo's a corner guy. He'll find himself a corner, whether it's third base, first base, right field. It'll work himself. It'll work itself out. If you have to with Beltre, I could see Beltre DHing for his last year
Yeah.
as a ranker and Gallo playing third, and maybe spelling him a little bit. It will work itself out, and make no mistake, Gallo's bat is what is carrying him to the big leagues.
No question, and from everything I've seen some highlights and everything. You've seen him live, Sam, of course, in Frisco. I cannot wait. I mean, a left-handed power bat like that in Arlington. I mean, it's just like, salivating over the possibilities of the damage that he can do in Arlington. I just that guy, again, it's almost like this year, as you said, he's really cut down on the strikeouts, which that's been the most impressive thing for me. 450 to 500 foot home runs aside, I'm liking that he's cutting down the strikeout rate and increasing the walk rate. And that's what he's going to need at the big league level, because, it's one thing to crush minor league pitching like that, but it's another thing when you get to the show and you see all the breaking stuff that they throw. If you can't hit that stuff, they find one hole, and it's, one hole in your game, and he could be, the next Adam Dunn Light. I hope he's not, but I'm liking that JD hasn't, I feel like they haven't rushed him either. That's the other thing that I wanted to point out, is that it's nice to see that he hasn't been escalated so much through the system with this season going so poorly, that I feel like management so far has handled him, rather well.
They have. I mean, he's not being pushed hard. I mean, he was just destroying high A pitching. They weren't pitching to him anymore. It was time to move him up. They didn't rush him. And you mentioned Adam Dunn as the comp. I've heard that for a couple of years. Honestly, after the year he's having, I think you can raise his ceiling. I think now if he's Adam Dunn, people will be disappointed. I mean, he's the number 4 prospect in the game according to Baseball America.
Absolutely.
I don't think I would get mad at anyone for dreaming Stanton on him. Hey, you can dream. The kid, the sky's the limit for him right now.
How about a left-handed Mike Stanton or Juan Carlos Stanton? I wouldn't mind that.
That would be great.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. Sam, this has been a great, great podcast. Unfortunately, I would have liked to be talking about happier topics, but I think that we've made some great headway in predicting what will happen for the rest of the season into next season. Anything else that you wanted to talk about Rangers-wise?
Yeah. Before we go, what do you think about JD hitting adversity for the first time? I know we briefly talked about it, but what is your opinion on all this?
I think that he definitely has, and like you said, what can he do? You know, his job is to put the best product on the field to make this team win. You take out half the roster, more than half of the starting rotation, tons of position players. Um, it's tough to really for me to put the blame on him, and I know that you and I both probably have been JD apologists on this podcast in the past. Yeah, I think to a point everybody's at fault, but I can't sit here and say, gosh, you know, JD, you're doing a horrible job. It's tough for me to do that. Now, I will say this: next year will be telling because, like you said, if this team continues to venture off in the tailspin that it's on, things could get very interesting next year. You take a look at the rest of the division too, Sam. I mean, even Houston is doing something at this point. I mean, they are not a playoff team by any stretch, but they have promise. I'll tell you that much. You know,
Houston is getting better every year, for sure, and that was their plan. And man, Oakland, I give them so much respect for them. You know, sometimes in years past, I thought it was a fluke, but man, from the beginning, I thought that team was legit. And I'll say, even if we were fully healthy, I think we're a wild card team this year.
I would like to think that too. You know, I would absolutely like to think that too. You know, you continue looking down, the Angels, they're not going anywhere. Their farm system is garbage, which it's kind of nice, but their big league team is set for the next couple of years. And so, again, I want to see us fully healthy competing against these teams because, you know, I'd like to see starters in the rotation that we've actually heard of. I mean, so that's why I say, JD, for next year, that is a huge year for him because I don't think, yeah, there'll be whispers about Wash, there'll be whispers about JD, but I think that those whispers turn into scarier conversations next year if they don't continue to perform. I'll open it up to you. I don't know if you feel the same way or if you feel somewhat differently.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think JD's on the hot seat at all. I know Rangers ownership loves him, and rightfully so. It's just hard to think about the players we barely missed on this past year or that we were second place on the past couple of years and what a difference they would make. I know we were second place on Zach Greinke. We wouldn't give him that opt-out that the Dodgers did. Boy, would he help right now. Yeah. You know, we were second place in the bidding on Jose Abreu. He ended up signing for like under $70 million with the White Sox. If we have him at first, we don't make the Prince deal, things will look different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he didn't re-sign Nelson Cruz, who is having a career year. It's tough to think about those things, but no, I mean, one bad year isn't going to do any damage in my eyes. Maybe some Rangers fans, but I think that the minor league system is still doing well. We're still going to churn players out. We're still going to make smart signings. I think we're going to be fine long term.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think that the resources are still in the right place. The value is still in the right place. They haven't totally gone. You know, you haven't seen so much inconsistency that it's almost like you can't identify with this team anymore. Of course, you know, it's tough to identify with a team right now that is playing so poorly and is you know, the worst in baseball. But it wasn't supposed to be constructed this way. Obviously, they have minimal control over that. So yeah, long term, it's way too early to write this franchise off.
Agreed.
All righty, Sam. Well, that'll take care of this Game Time in Arlington podcast. Appreciate you joining us for Sam Mood. I'm Eric Sorrentino, and we'll talk to you guys again next time.